Um, we'll continue with the West region now. So, um, just a refresher. Um, I had UConn advancing all the way to the Final Four. Wait, no, to the Elite Eight to play against TCU. Sorry, and then Houston would play against. Sorry, who did I? What? Houston playing against Texas. Sorry, yeah, my bracket got all jumbled up for some reason. Anyways, um, let's just discuss our Elite Eight, our Elite Eights now, from starting from the West, and we'll go back up to the top to the South.
Okay. Well, for me, I had Kansas against Gonzaga. Um, again, my Kansas run to the Elite Eight is predicated upon that they get Kevin McCullough back. I think if they do get Kevin McCullough back, they are they are a top 3 team in the country. But without Kevin McCullough, it showed against Texas and in a couple other games as well. But I do like this matchup with Jalen Wilson, KJ Adams going up against the guards for Gonzaga. Julian Strother can really shoot it. I think Gonzaga is being underestimated a little bit. I love Drew Timme. I think they get to the Final Four. Look, this could be a screw bag pick. I could be screwed if they lose, to TCU in the second round. But I do believe in Mark Few. They're a veteran team. They score a lot of points. They can shoot the three. They play with pace, and they're playing better defense. So that's why I have Gonzaga advancing as a 3 seed to the Final Four. What do you have in that region?
I have Houston beating Texas. Wait, no, UConn beating UCLA. Sorry, I got confused there. I had UConn beating UCLA to advance to the Final Four for UConn. Um, let's move on to the Midwest region now. I think we both had Houston and Texas.
Yeah.
Um, I had Houston moving on. I think um, by this point they should have Marcus Sasser back, and I think at this point in the tournament, it's so like everything is on the margins. There's no this team is a ton better than that team in this facet or in that facet. There's none of that. Like these teams are going to be very evenly matched by this point. It's going to be almost impossible to pick. But I just give Houston the edge because they've been so consistent all year, and they know who they are. And it's not that Texas doesn't, but to kind of kick off the point you made earlier about Texas, they over the last 3 weeks of the season found their inside out attack that they needed, and you know, not having a full season track record of that type of play, I think affects their consistency, and I think it also more so affects their ability to fall on it when under pressure, if that makes sense. I think in pressure situations, you fall back on what you're most comfortable with in your offense. And I think for Texas, that is a lot of Marcus Carr, and, you know, there are other guys cutting and moving off the ball. They're one of the, highest assist rate teams in the entire country. But I think in this particular case, I just think Houston will be able to contain that.
There are 3 things that I think will separate Houston from Texas in this particular matchup. Number 1, Kelvin Sampson against Rodney Terry. Nothing against Rodney Terry. He's done, I think, a better job than Texas fans could have ever asked for coming out of that whole Chris Beard situation. taking the reins basically at the time that Big 12 play was beginning, going through the gauntlet of the Big 12, finishing 12-6, beating Kansas twice down the stretch, and not only beating Kansas, but
Pummeling them.
demolishing
Yeah.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Winning the Big 12 tournament, finishing second in the Big 12 regular season, getting Texas to their most wins since 2010. I mean, 26-8, fantastic year, expectations through the roof. And if he goes to the Elite Eight, I'm telling you right now, he's getting the job. I'm just telling you that right now.
Yep.
And I'd love for him to get the job. But there are Texas fans that will tell you, he did take over a team that he did help build. He's been under, he was under Chris Beard's staff. He was with Texas, has familiarity under the Rick Barnes era at Texas. So he's made deep runs into the tournament as an assistant. We'd love to keep him as an assistant if we were to move on from him as a head coach, but I highly doubt that would happen because regardless, I think he's getting a job somewhere else for the job that he's done. Regardless of whether Texas goes far in the tournament or not, I think he's getting a job at maybe like a mid-major school. But as I said, I think Kelvin Sampson, the experience factor at the coaching position, his ability to adjust in game, that's number one. Number two, I think Texas has a couple possible NBA players, but Houston has like lottery level NBA talent. Jarris Walker, I think he's fantastic, top 10 NBA draft pick. We'll talk about the NBA draft more once it gets closer to that point, but he'll definitely be a guy that we talk about. And then I just think that that's number two, lottery level NBA talent that I just don't think Texas has quite yet. Well, I actually do. I think Arterio Morris and Dylan Mitchell could potentially get there, but they're not there yet. And then number three is just their physicality and their ability to crash the glass. Texas has rebounded better down the stretch, but that doesn't take away from the track record that they have of being out rebounded in most of their games this year. And it just tells you, it goes to show that they're a resilient team because most of these games they've been out rebounded and in some ways out physical at sometimes. And I think Houston's physicality, their girth, and their ability to get on the offensive and defensive glass at a high level will just wear down on Texas eventually. So those are my three reasons that I'm picking Houston, but I think it'd be an absolute great game. And since the Final Four is in Houston, I mean, those are two teams that if it got to that point would be thirsty to get to Houston because either one of those teams gets there and there's going to be a massive turnout of fan support for either of those teams at the Final Four. So I think it'd be a great game, but those are the three factors that come to mind that I think separate. As you said, it'd be a game decided on the margins. That's what it comes down to. You're exactly right. So I do have Houston advancing. I think Elite Eight is a realistic expectation for this Texas team, though, given what we've seen the past 3 or 4 weeks. Let's go to the East. I have Duke Marquette, and I have Duke beating Marquette in that matchup. I think Filipowski is the separating factor there. He's a 7-footer that can do a little bit of everything. And look, with Dariq Whitehead and the length and athleticism that Duke has, their ability to defend, I think that'd be a little bit of a lower scoring matchup than we might like, just because Marquette also defends at a very high level. But I have Duke advancing just because I think they have the better players and the better athletes. So that's my East region. What about you?
I have Duke advancing against Kentucky. I think everything you had just mentioned about Duke, they're supremely athletic. They've meshed defensively as well, and I think this new coach that they hired, I can't think of his name at the moment. I think it's Hubert Davis. No, that's
That's
North Carolina.
Carolina.
Sorry,
John Shire at Duke.
John Schneider. Yeah, um, he's 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 kind of found his identity here to close the season as a coach, and I think um, that can pay dividends in the tournament. If you have a team that's as talented as Duke is, that has the utmost trust in their coach.
Now, Duke is a really popular pick. They're a team that a month ago, if you asked people, can this team make a Final Four? Unless they were a Duke fan, they probably would have said no. I think realistic college basketball minds about a month ago, after they lost that heartbreaker of a game to Virginia in Charlottesville, where there was that questionable call, said absolutely not. But they found something. Something clicked. And look, last year with Carolina, the same thing happened. So I think this could be a special team at Duke to get to the Final Four. I absolutely think they have what it takes now. And then in the South, I have Alabama advancing past Creighton just because I think Alabama's depth, their ability to go too deep at every position with Noah Clowney and Bediako and Nick Smith and Javon Quinterly and Brandon Miller. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think their depth, their ability to get production off the bench and go too deep at every single position would wear down on Creighton. Even though they have a great starting five, they don't have much beyond that. And I think Creighton's run would end right there. And Brandon Miller's a guy that is sort of the trump card to everything. So I have Alabama, Duke, Houston, and Gonzaga in my Final Four.
My Final Four is Alabama, Duke, Houston, and UConn.
Okay. All right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty now. Alabama, Duke. I have Alabama winning. And then Houston, Gonzaga. I have Houston winning.
We have the same national championship. I have Alabama winning against Duke, and then Houston winning in front of their home fans against UConn.
Okay. I have Houston completing the story, winning the national championship as long as they have a healthy Marcus Sasser. Kelvin Sampson gets it done in front of the Houston faithful, and they beat. I don't know if you did your bracket on ESPN where you have to put in the score. They beat Alabama by a score of 76-69.
Okay. I have Houston beating Alabama 68-65, so a little bit less high scoring. But
okay. So we have 3 out of the 4 same. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Yeah, we were on the same page in terms of Final Four, and that kind of scares me. If I'm being entirely honest, that really scares me.
Well,
I'm like, should I
was going
change?
to ask you. So, and look, I mean, I'm tempted to pick UConn, but I'm going to stick with my guns and pick Gonzaga. When you look at your bracket, just to wrap things up, you did some tweaking throughout the podcast. I did a little bit of tweaking as well. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? And just 1 or 2 things that you're most excited to, like 1 or 2 games that stand out to you from the first round, the round of 64, that you're really excited to watch.
I'm excited to see just those 8-9 matchups, those 7-10 matchups, 6-11. All of those games are always so tight and just so entertaining. It's just going to be hours and hours of amazing basketball. I can't wait. And then, I mean, it's hard to not point out the South region as being an absolute bloodbath. I think the draw for that region, I think, definitely favors the top side for Alabama for sure. And then the
Yeah.
bottom half is, I mean, any one of those, between Creighton, Baylor, Arizona, I mean, could easily make a deep run. It's just luck of the draw, really, in terms of picking.
Yeah. I'm excited for a couple games. I think the Creighton NC State matchup could be really fun. Could be a higher scoring. NC State, Jarkel Joyner, the guards that they have, they can throw it into a guy on the inside that could potentially match up with Kalkbrenner. I think that could be fun. In terms of other matchups, I think the Memphis FAU game is going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
I could see either team winning that game. And then same thing with Arkansas, Illinois in the West. I think that could be really fun as well. And then after tonight, I'm really excited to see TCU and Arizona State. That will be a good one too. There are going to be tons of good games. So over the next 2 days, enjoy watching basketball from 11:15 a.m. to about 11:15 p.m. 12 straight hours of basketball, 16 games each day. Potentially my favorite 2-day span of the year. And then we get to the round of 32 on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a really fun time. So those are our brackets. Don't take our advice to the betting sports books. Wouldn't recommend it. But we did give you a lot of good stuff on the teams, maybe introduced you to some of the names that you should be looking out for, some of the teams that you should watch out for. Nevertheless, I really enjoyed this episode. As I said before, who's in your Final Four? Who's the school that you're rooting for, whether it's the school that you go to or just the school that you're rooting for whatever reason? How do you think they'll do? Who's your Cinderella team? And so forth. Tell us all that in the comments. Enjoy the basketball. Do you have anything you want to sign off with?
I'll just finish by saying subscribe to the channel. That's one thing that I always forget to mention in the intro. But subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. And we want to have more viewers per video. I think that's probably the next step for us in terms of engagement. And I think part of that is just if you're watching, leave a like on the video. That would really help us. It helps recommend our videos to more people. So if you're watching, I would really appreciate if you were to leave a like.
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to get better. There's so much going on in the NFL right now. So I would look out for maybe an episode talking about the moves that's been made so far in free agency a little bit later this week. We could also continue our team needs series as well and maybe react to some of the first and second rounds of the March Madness games. We will see what we will do, but we'll definitely be back before Sunday. I would guess for another episode, just because there's so much going on. But with all that being said, enjoy the basketball this weekend, and just like Colgate's chances of beating Texas tomorrow, we are gone. Peace out.
Peace. I hope that's not a jinx.